Welcome to Liberation Generation. This is the podcast platform where we break down our struggles and uncover the systems behind them. I'm your host, ODC, and today we're going to be diving into the economic and socio-political realities that define life for so many of us in Nigeria and across Africa as a whole. From skyrocketing prices to rampant corruption, voter suppression, and even extravagance at the top. You heard me right. While the masses keep suffering, it actually feels like the system is working against all of us. Because, come on, that's all we're seeing outside. And why is this happening? And what can we do about it? But to help us understand this all, I am joined by VS Sango, a revolutionary thinker who understands the system that creates and sustains inequality. VS Sango, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you once again. So let's start. Let's start with this. Everyone is feeling the pain. Everyone is feeling the pinch. You know, there's food scarcity, transportation is so high. Let's not even get to, rent. Let's not even start with rent. But wages are not changing. Nothing is happening in wages. At least we can see the government is still trying to talk about the minimum wage. While we struggle and report, get more reports that government is, splunging money on yachts, jets, new SUV, and even trying to buy a new plane. And salary is even getting less and less affordable. How can we make sense of all this that is happening?
Yeah, thank you. It's the exact right time to speak about these kind of issues. As you say, people are really suffering, are going through a lot. The prices are high, and it's very difficult for someone to survive in Nigeria. So I think people now want to understand what is going on and how they can change it. I would say, the explanation is fairly straightforward. Fela Kuti in his music, Movement of the People, he said that, how do we make sense of, what is happening to us in Africa and in Nigeria as a whole. And essentially, he said we have to go back to a long time ago for us to understand it. That, when the colonialists came, they left behind a system because the colonialists operated a system in which they were the masters and we were their servants. And they left behind a class of rulers who believed that, they, as Fela says, them be the master, we be the servants. Whereas in the old days, it used to be them be the father, we be the pikin. And you know how families work, there's a care among families. As the case used to be. But with that kind of relationship that was built up and sustained over time, which is what we call a system of elite capture, in which the political class have, taken over the state. They don't behave like people in a family that they have care for. They only behave like the masters that can take everything for themselves and leave nothing for the rest of the people. So, and just to make a point about, there is no accountability in that kind of system. You can't hold people accountable who have taken everything for themselves and believe it is theirs by right. So you can think about the ways we used to operate in a communal setting in Africa. Think about the fact that if you were doing an ajo with other people, there is no way you would allow somebody to take the whole thing that everybody contributed and run away with it. You will check them, and if they do it, you will make sure that person never operates in such a thing again, because you are doing things together. There's a joint ownership and there's a joint accountability that you hold for those who control it. But now we have a sense in which some people are on top, the rest are at the bottom, and they can do whatever they like. So
very true of that. And we can also, see it as corruption. We say, corruption is a constant topic when we're talking about our struggles. And It's not only when it's time for elections, it's everywhere. It's in our day-to-day activities. So I want to ask you, how would you explain the culture of corruption and its impact on us?
Yeah, essentially, corruption stems from what I was explaining before. You know, in this colonial system where you have an elite that is created to lord over the others, this elite exists by selling off the resources of the country and collecting a percentage of what they collect. And so, you know, in this kind of system, you know, people bribe to get to high positions, to get to be able to take more money. So the system is naturally corrupt. It is not an accidental thing that corruption comes into it. It is inbuilt into it. And then you say that we operate an electoral system in which these people must do everything possible to stay where the money is. So naturally, they will bribe, they will do whatever it takes to get there. So they create this corruption. But, you know, there's corruption, as we say, among all Nigerians, which is part of, you know, the fact that they can have people to corrupt. But what a lot of people don't know is that it doesn't matter how corrupt you are, if you're outside that leadership system, how whatever you do, this system is for them, it is for their maintenance, and they will use it, you know. But whatever you do, you're not going to be able to penetrate that system. It is for them and their families and the generations of their families to come, whereas the rest of us are supposed to get poorer and poorer as this system operates.
Sorry, you said something about, how all of us are corrupt. It comes from the politicians, not only politicians, the doctors, engineers, almost everybody now feels, is actually corrupt. And I'm wondering, how are we all involved? How did we get to this point that we're all involved in the corruption?
Well, I wouldn't say we are all involved as such. I would say that the politicians leave no room for anything else for majority of the people. You know, you take vote buying. You have party A and party B. You know very well that party A and party B are not different from each other. Today, the individual in party A is going to be in party B tomorrow. The policies of party A do not different from party B. Party A is not going to do anything better for you than party B. So if they offer you 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira, 5,000, these days now with inflation, let's say 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira, it doesn't change anything. But they've also put it into you that this is the way things are. So you have no choice but to be part of it, you know. And it is for people to now start thinking outside of that, to say that, look, we need to pull ourselves out of these systems that they create in order to start to demand accountability from them. You know, we even talk about vote buying and so on. Politicians build boreholes. They come and say they have a fund, community project fund. Those are all parts of the bribery and things. They don't go and make sure roads are built in their communities. They don't go and make sure there's pipe bomb water in their communities. But they will come to a community and say, look, I put a borehole here. And then the community people will say, wow, he has done something for us. Let's vote for him next time. And that is a way of not demanding accountability from them. It's not, is you allowing them to dictate what happens. So yes, the corruption is in the system, but it is at the benefit of these people who control it. You know, there's a difference in the fact that somebody is corrupt and pays a 500 naira bribe to a policeman to escape something, and somebody who actually spends millions of naira in order to become a trillionaire. You know, there's a difference to that. But yes, it is the system. Corruption is built into the system. Yeah.
As you rightly said, the corruption is built into the system. But then lately, youths have been speaking out. We would talk about the frustrations from police brutality that led to the NSAS movement, and we were met with violence. Why is the system so afraid of the youths, and young people speaking out?
Yes, because there's so much at stake for those who lead. You know, they do whatever it takes to hold on to their power. This is a power in which they become filthily rich, and they can pass on that power to their children and grandchildren in perpetuity. And they control the armed forces of the country. So whenever people come to speak out, they don't want that system to change. But the thing that Nigerians have to understand, young people have to understand, is that, there's a time for a change. We have constantly been going backwards in this country to the point in which these politicians and wherever themselves have benefited from a society in which there was free education. There were benefits that they had. They have taken all of those things away from the young generation, that it is now either you try and escape this concentration camp of ours, or you have no choice to stay here. And if you have no choice to stay here, or even if you escape, you still know that this is home, this is where my parents are, my siblings are, my family is. This country has to get better. So naturally that they are going to try and stop you. But they also have seen, hopeful actions in the fact that when people have come together, it is the fact they are scared of the power of the people coming together. That's why they bring out the police. That's why they bring out the army. They are actually scared of you coming together, because that is the only solution. Just like we talked about the fact that you have a system there, that they have captured it. There's no accountability. When people come together, the vast majority of the people are more than them. And when they come together, they actually can start to say, now we can demand accountability. This land does not belong to you alone. It belongs to all of us. So that is why they use the force, because they can use it to try and clamp down on people, but it's also because they are afraid of the power of the people.
I picked something from what you said, sir, and you were talking about how the society is, conditioned to let us be like this. Are you saying we can challenge the culture, challenge this culture of corruption that is happening?
Yes, we can challenge it by organizing, because you can see that is what they are afraid of. Whenever people organize and come together, they start shaking, and they do whatever it takes. We have spoken about the fact that they would bribe their way to win elections. They will control the electoral body to ensure the elections are rigged in their favor. They would use the police and whatever. But all those things is because they do not want the power of the people, which is the way government should be run. Government for the people, of the people, by the people. It is the way it should be run. And it is what people need to start doing now, is to organize themselves in a means in which they start to show that there are systems of accountability. There shouldn't be political parties run by godfathers that dictate who has money can spend money on elections. There should now be political parties that take the voice of all the people together as equal, elect their representatives, elect their chairs, elect whoever runs those parties, and start to demand accountability. When we start to put that accountability among ourselves, we will not allow it to go up to the level of government. So that is the way I think we can start to challenge these things here.
So I want to talk about unemployment. There is a high rise of unemployment among the youths in Nigeria as of now, according to statistics. Graduates are struggling to find jobs. Even they take menial jobs as cleaners just to survive. Meanwhile, politicians are creating jobs for their friends and families. Example, our current political space has a place for the child of the first child of the president, which I have never heard before, or Iyaloja of the Republic of Nigeria, which I think I just started hearing. What is the root? Like, what's the root of all this issue? Why is this happening?
Yeah, our government, the people in the so-called government right now, know the reasons why, but they won't do anything about it. Again, like I said at the beginning, we have to go to a long time ago to understand these things and why we have come to this stage now. The colonialists came here and created a society in which they were going to take our resources, our oil, our gold, whatever it is, and take it for their own benefit. So when people rose up against them and demanded independence, they left, but they made sure they left these bad leaders in charge of the affairs of this country. And these bad leaders have continued that system of sending resources out. So when you focus everything on sending resources out, you are not interested in industrialization, or, as they say, the buzzword, diversify the economy. You're not interested in those things, because those are where the jobs are.
Yes.
But there are not many jobs, digging the ground and sending the oil. In fact, the people who do all this oil extraction are mostly expatriates. There's no interest in actually supporting technological education to give people jobs and so on. There's no interest in education. Now over the years, they have depreciated education in this country to such a point that they made it so bad. Now they have brought in high fees, and make it very, very difficult. So now, why do people need education in this country? They don't believe in it because there is no industries. There is no need to even apply technology and sense to it. So this is the root of why there are no jobs today. It's got worse. We've had governments who have done some basic things to maintain some level of jobs, but because of the recent economic policy dictated by the IMF and the World Bank that said that we must devalue our currency, we must cut subsidies, and so on, so many companies have left Nigeria that were even here providing jobs. We've had Unilever leave Nigeria, or PZ Cousins are going to leave Nigeria. A host of companies have left Nigeria, and that was even at a very basic level of job creation. And then the other aspect is Nigerians are very entrepreneurial, that word. And they have an entrepreneurial spirit, right? No matter what government does to Nigerians will
bounce back,
try and do something for themselves, and that's all they had. Government was not doing anything. So Nigerians were their own government, right? Nigerians provide their own water, provide their own electricity, and provide their own jobs, by the activities that they do. But now the government says, fuel subsidy remove. You have crumbled so many of these small businesses because there's no more, the government doesn't even provide electricity. And now when it provides electricity, it says the electricity prices must be very high. So how are businesses supposed to survive? They're supposed to be jobs. So that is the root of it.
It actually feels so overwhelming. The corruption, unemployment, voter suppression. See, the system is actually rigged. But we keep fighting back through protest and some grassroots movement. So what gives you hope?
I have hope because, I feel like Nigerians, like I said, Nigerians have a strong spirit. Maybe that strong spirit allows Nigerians to adapt to any situation. But at the same time, it is also a spirit of which we know that we are resilient people and we can fight. We know what it takes. We know we can come together. We've seen it in history. Like the independence movement, people came together to kick away the almighty British. Yes. When people came together in 2012, it was massive. People came together in the NSAS movement, it was massive. And we know, especially I have hope with the young generation, they are not as inclined as the older generation to take so much things. They show that they are the ones at the forefront of developing, technological skills, developing innovations and things like that. And they are ready to say that, look, this country belongs to us and we can take it. So all it needs is really for people to start spreading this, feeling of organizing ourselves and coming together and knowing what we need to do. It's hard. It's very, very hard, especially when the government makes it hard to survive for people to organize. But there must be hope because this kind of young generation has done much more than many people will expect them to do, and so they are very capable of organizing themselves to change the things the way they are.
Okay. Before we round up, for someone listening, and the person feels powerless, feels like, okay, you know what? Maybe the only hope is to try to jack back. What would you say? What's that different thing that you feel they should do that can, change everything?
Everything is done small. It takes lots of drops of water to make a mighty ocean. And that's what people have to understand. It is not doing anything at all that is the issue. And power exists. Fela Kuti sang a song, he said, everybody gets in power. Yes, the government can have its power there, but the Omalanke pusher has his own power. Everybody, so there is no need for people to feel powerless. Power comes when people start to come together with others, because there's strength in this building unity with others. Start to educate yourselves about what is going on in your country. Start to talk within your communities, any small things you can do. But join a movement of people who are of like minds, because more people who come together, the more chances it to increase your power. Don't stay isolated in a place. You are not powerless. You should not believe you are powerless. The government wants to make you, the people running things, this terrible system that benefits them, want you to believe that you don't have power. But just take Fela's words to heart. Everybody gets in power.
Thank you very much, B.S. Sango. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As he says, Fela, our boss, and our I wanted to use the word our Lord says everybody gets in power. And honestly, we all have our power. Thank you for breaking this all down for us today and demonstrating that there is hope even in all the chaos and corruption and adversity. It shows that there's still hope. To everyone listening that may find the system overpowering and are actually at their wit's end, together we can make a change and we can challenge the system. Okay, so you've told them how to make a difference. I'm wondering, in everything we've spoken about, you've not told us how you have, been able to overcome the challenges and, adversity, how you've been able to make a difference so far.
Yeah, well, I try to organize wherever I can, with whatever organizations are trying to, make a change in the country, work with like minds, and make the little impact that we can make in whatever sphere we can. So just to give an example, we opened a library not too long ago in Ogba, Lagos, which is called the Baba Mojola Memorial Library, which memorializes actually a figure in this country who has been active in Nigeria's struggle since before independence and after, and from whom we could learn a lot of the kind of things I've been speaking about, in the fact that there's a rich history of resistance to bad leadership in our country. And we are only here, if I may mention that a friend of mine, Sheikh Kuti, normally says this because, of course, his grandmother was part of the movement to free Nigeria from imperialists, Fumilayo and some Kuti. And he always says this, that we actually things are so bad, but actually the reason we even have any rights at all right now is because that generation fought for something in this country. So, coming together and fighting is not hopeless, it's good. So that's a little on the side. So this person we are memorializing is somebody that inspires us. But this library, we put it in a community to give especially young people a chance to come together, to speak their minds, to talk. Like, we hold programs where we have young people come and speak what is on their mind, and have a place in which they can, educate themselves, improve themselves, but just have a focal point in which they can meet like minds and so on. So, and we want things like this, libraries and centers, to grow, across the country. That forms of organizing that can be done. Any young people can do things like this. You have a space, you can come together with others. What is it that you young people need in your community? You come together, discuss it, put it there. And people do this all the time. You have places where people play pool or whatever, but you can do it to the extent in which we are addressing issues, bigger issues, in our community. It doesn't even have to be the government, the big government, federal government. Issues that affect you in your community with, should I continue? Issues that affect you in your community with your local government, even in your street, These are things that you shouldn't face alone. You should come together. So we have this experience of, these are the kind of things that we try to do.
Wow, that is a lot. That is really good. Thank you for giving us an insight on that. Thank you very much for also breaking it down for us and demonstrating that there is hope. There's actually hope in the face of corruption and adversity. Thank you, VS Sango, for coming today and for giving us an insight into the impact, struggle, and organization as a people in Nigeria in face of corruption and adversity, and also for telling us about the library. If you're around Ogba or in town, please do well to visit. If you want to have information about Nigeria and everything, your political space, the history of your people, please do well to visit. The address of the library would be put on the screen, and also numbers that you can reach to ask questions. For everyone listening that may find the system overpowering, but keep in mind that this is just temporary. Together, we can challenge it and make it better. Stay conscious, stay strong, and stay revolutionary.